You find an intent to file confirmation dated March 20th. Your completed claim goes in on June 1st. Then a VA decision letter shows a date you do not recognize. Which date should you be looking at? And what should you do before a review deadline passes? That is the timeline problem we are solving today. The most important idea is simple. Do not argue with the VA timeline from memory. Build a documented timeline first, then ask what rule applies.
Welcome to the Veteran Benefits Reset Podcast, where we help veterans and their families better understand the VA disability benefits process, one step at a time. I'm your host, Cameron Burrell, a U.S. Army veteran and founder of VetBiz Media. Today, we are separating 4 pieces of the timeline: an intent to file, the event when a claim or review request is submitted, the date VA records or receives that submission, and the effective date assigned under the applicable rules. These dates can be connected, but they are not interchangeable. By the end, you will have a practical 4-column method for organizing your records and preparing better questions.
A quick boundary before we continue. This is an independent educational resource. It is not legal, medical, or individualized claims advice, and it does not predict an outcome. VA procedures, forms, and instructions can change. The applicable rules can also depend on the benefit, the type of claim or review, and the facts in the record. Use this episode to get organized, verify current information through official VA resources, and prepare a conversation with a VA-accredited Veterans Service Organization, claims agent, or attorney when appropriate. Education before action. Facts over frustration. Let's begin with intent to file. In plain language, it can be an early notice that a veteran plans to submit a claim or seek certain VA benefits. In some situations, it may help preserve an earlier point in the timeline if the required follow-up action is completed within the applicable period and the rules for that situation are met. But an intent to file is not a completed claim. It does not by itself contain everything needed for VA to decide entitlement. It is not a guarantee of a rating, payment, or effective date. Think of it as a marker on the calendar, not the finish line.
So if you submit one, preserve the confirmation, save the notice, download a receipt, keep a screenshot, or record the confirmation in a place you can find later. Note the date shown and how you submitted it. Do not assume that remembering the event will be enough months from now. The record should be able to answer what happened and what document supports that. An intent to file may be important, but it still has to be followed by the appropriate claim or request under the appropriate requirements.
Now, here is where people often blend several different events together. A veteran may decide to file on March 3rd. They may search for records on March 10th and speak with a VSO on March 15th. Those are meaningful steps, but they are not automatically the date VA received a claim or review request. Then, on March 20th, the veteran submits an intent to file and saves the confirmation. On June 1st, the veteran submits a completed claim and receives a submission receipt.
Let's call this fictional veteran Jordan. Is March 3rd automatically the claim date? Not necessarily. Is March 20th potentially important? It may be, depending on the required follow-up and the applicable rules. Is June 1st the only date that matters? No. A later VA record or letter may show a date that differs from the date Jordan signed, uploaded, mailed, or personally received a document. Those are separate facts. Do not silently replace one with another.
For Jordan's timeline, create 4 columns. First, the event date, such as the day an intent to file was submitted. Second, the date printed on the document, if there is one. Third, the date received or recorded, based on a receipt, delivery record, electronic notice, or VA system information. Fourth, what the document actually proves. That last column matters. A submission receipt may show that something was transmitted. A VA letter may show the date printed on the notice. A delivery confirmation may show that mail reached its destination. Keep those facts distinct. The date you started gathering records is not the same as the date a claim was submitted. And the date you submitted something is not always described the same way as the date VA recorded or received it.
This is the part people often skip. They write one sentence that says, "My claim began in March," and then try to make every later document fit that sentence. A stronger approach is more neutral. March 3rd, began considering a claim. March 20th, intent to file submitted, confirmation located. June 1st, completed claim submitted, receipt located. Later date, VA letter issued or received. If a later record lists another date, add it. Do not guess which entry is correct just because one sounds more favorable. Record both, identify the source, and ask why they differ.
Now, let's talk about the effective date. This is the date assigned under the applicable law and facts if entitlement is established. It can affect the period for which benefits may be considered, but there is no universal rule that makes the first symptom date automatically controlling. The date of separation from service does not automatically control every claim. An intent to file does not automatically guarantee the earliest possible date. The answer can depend on the benefit involved, whether the matter is an original claim or a review of a prior decision, when a claim or request was received, when entitlement arose, what the evidence shows, and which provisions apply.
That may feel unsatisfying, especially when you know when symptoms began or when you left the military. But a date that feels fair is not the same thing as a date established under the applicable rules. The responsible question is not, what date should I automatically get? It is, what dates are documented? What does the decision letter say? And what rule appears to control the situation? That question keeps the conversation grounded in records instead of assumptions.
Here is how to build the working timeline. Use paper, a spreadsheet, or a digital document. Put each event on its own line. Include the event date, the date shown on the document, the date received or recorded if known, the source, and any deadline connected to it. Start with the earliest event you can support. You might list the intent to file confirmation, the completed claim receipt, a request for evidence, an examination notice, an examination record, a decision letter, and any later review request.
Keep the language neutral. Write, decision letter dated November 10th, rather than VA ignored my claim, unless you are quoting a specific document. If you know when the letter arrived, record that separately. If you uploaded something, save the upload confirmation. If you mailed something, keep the mailing and delivery records available. Preserve the original file, then make notes in a separate working copy. If a date is missing, write, not located. Do not fill the gap with a guess. One record, one date, one source. That is how confusion starts becoming a usable timeline.
When you review a decision letter, begin with the exact language. Find the date that concerns you and copy it into your notes or highlight it on a working copy. Then ask, what date does the letter identify? What event does that date appear to describe? Which document in my records supports, challenges, or fails to explain it? Look beyond one sentence. Check the sections discussing the issue, the evidence considered, the reasons for the decision, and the review options. Most importantly, identify any deadline right away. A confusing date should not cause you to miss a deadline while you are trying to understand it. Then bring the timeline and supporting documents to an accredited representative when appropriate. Instead of saying, everything is wrong, you can say, my records show an intent to file confirmation on this date, a completed submission on that date, and a decision letter identifying another date. Can you help me understand how these entries relate under the current rules? That is not a demand for a prediction. It is a clear request to understand the record and the available options.
A few mistakes are especially common. Relying on memory alone is one. Treating an intent to file as a completed claim is another. Assuming that the earliest symptom, the separation date, or the first conversation about a condition automatically controls the effective date is another. And waiting until the end of a review period to ask questions can create unnecessary pressure. Verify current instructions through official VA resources and do not build your plan around rumors, online guarantees, or someone else's claim. Another veteran's timeline may look similar and still involve different facts and rules. Veteran to veteran, organize first, verify second, then take the next responsible step.
Before the next episode, create your 4-column timeline. Find the earliest confirmation or letter you can locate. Record the event date, the date shown on the document,
the date received or recorded if known, and what that document proves. Attach or link the supporting record. Mark every deadline you need to verify. If you cannot find something, write "not located" instead of guessing. Then take your questions and records to a VA-accredited VSO, claims agent, or attorney when appropriate.
Here is the short version. An intent to file can be an early marker, but it is not automatically a completed claim. A claim or review request involves a formal submission, and the submission date, document date, receipt date, and date recorded in a VA notice may need to be labeled separately. An effective date is assigned under the applicable rules and facts if entitlement is established. It is not automatically the first day symptoms appeared or the day a veteran left service. Do not argue from memory. Build the record. Identify the question and verify the rule.
Thanks for listening to the Veteran Benefits Reset podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a clearer way to understand the dates in a VA timeline and one practical action you can take today. If this episode helped, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with another veteran, family member, or caregiver. Download the free 7-step Veteran Benefits Reset Guide at vetbizmedia.com/veteran7. And remember, your service did not expire. Your story is still worth reviewing. Take the next responsible step.